Okay, anyways, kids wake you up because they're hungry. Not her, she'd sleep through everything. If no one ever woke her up, she'd probably never wake up. But we were there for, I think, another 3 or 4 days because her bilirubin would not come down to a good level, but they wound up getting it down and we finally got discharged home. At this point, she's, I think, 1 week old when we get home. And we are excited. We are getting into the swing of our new lifestyle with 2 beautiful children, and we're actually in the process of closing on our house and moving into a new one. She goes in for her 2-week checkup appointments at the pediatrician, and we get a clean bill of health. We are sent home, and then all hell breaks loose that afternoon. I just done a feeding after we had been napping. Thank God I set my alarm. But we had just done the feeding and I noticed something just wasn't right. I had this feeling. I can't even explain it, but something wasn't right. So, I'm kind of just watching her real intently, paying attention to her. And then she starts shivering. Infants don't shiver. That's not normal. They don't really have the muscles to do that. It's not a reaction to being cold because the erectile pili muscle is not fully developed. So I knew something really wasn't right. I'm holding her, looking at her, and luckily my husband was home that day. I'm very blessed that he was home because he's never home. He runs his own business and he is normally out hustling all day long, but because we were trying to move, he was putting everything in trailers in the driveway, trying to get it into storage. He came in and I was like, hey, something's not right. She just doesn't seem good. And he's like, do you need to go to the hospital? And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna watch her real closely. And I don't know why, guys, I had this gut feeling like I did not need to take her to the hospital. We did not need to take her to the hospital, but I distinctly remember looking at her thinking that if I'm wrong, if there's something really wrong and she needs to go, like, I'm going to regret it. Like, I distinctly remember thinking that, and I should have clicked, but it didn't, and she started having difficulty breathing and kind of going in and out of consciousness. So I was stimulating her, waking her up, and she'd wake up and breathe and kind of look at me and then go back down, and then she just stopped responding, stopped breathing. So I leave the house without a shirt on or walk out to the garage and tell my husband, I need you to remain calm, but I need you to get the keys and we need to go to the hospital now. She's not breathing. Okay, I don't know if y'all remember, but I'm a paramedic. I don't call 911, okay? I am 911. I'm not gonna call them. It'd be stupid. I can do the exact same thing. Well, at least in my head, because I obviously don't have the equipment and the medications and all that. But in my head, I can do it. It's my baby. I'm going to take care of her. So my husband grabs the keys and realizes that his truck's hooked up to trailers and all sorts of other stuff. So he has to use my truck. And my truck has to be backed out through the yard to get around the trailers. At this point, we had both completely forgotten that I had an older daughter because we were kind of panicked and flustered and trying to get the hell out of the house. But she managed to come outside, and my neighbors were also outside and noticed all the commotion and came over to, see if there was anything that they could do. And in the midst of that, they saved my daughter's life because my husband was backing up and didn't see her behind the truck, and he would have ran her over. So we are so blessed that they were there that day. I just can't even begin to describe it. And they pulled her out of the way. We were able to get in the truck. Yes, dear. I love you. All done? We were able to get her in the truck, and off we went. But our neighbors in the process basically realized, hey, we're in the middle of a bunch of schools, and schools just let out, which means we're surrounded by school zones, and there's like lines of traffic waiting for pickup kids that would really, really keep us from being able to get to the hospital. So they called 911, and luckily there was an officer around the corner who was actually able to rendezvous with us and escorted us with his lights on through the school zones so that we could get to the hospital. Guys, I'm crying because there's so many things that went right that day. Everything fell into place. Okay, some people say, well, you should have already taken her to the hospital. Guys, if I would have taken her to the hospital before all this happened, she would have been in the back seat in a car seat. And it was very possible that we would not have known that she's completely stopped breathing and needed immediate medical attention. So everything just, she was not meant to die that day. She was not meant to die. Anyways, we're right around the corner from the hospital, and while we're driving there, she completely stops breathing, and I can't find a pulse. So I start CPR. Holding my baby's limp body in my hands is a nightmare. It was the worst pain. I was already envisioning her funeral and having to bury her, because realize, guys, I'm a paramedic. I know the likelihood of coming back from cardiac arrest is not very big, okay? And a few years ago, I coded a 10-day-old at work, and he survived and he's doing great. I still see him all the time, but that to me was my lucky save. I had already saved a kid, and I wasn't going to get another one. So I really, really, really believed I was gonna lose her. Hey, so James's story is gonna be an another story time for another day. But yes, I do have permission to share his story. We are basically family now, which is amazing. Most people in the medical field don't get that very often. There is one thing about his story and us that I do want y'all to know right now. 10 days before he went into cardiac arrest in my ambulance, I had a miscarriage. My very first miscarriage. That was his birthday. He was 10 days old. This was not a coincidence. We were meant to meet. I was meant to save him, not just me, it was other people too, a team. I was just meant to be a part of his story and feel his love. I've grown so much from that experience and getting to meet his family. It's just been a blessing that I cannot explain, other than the fact that that guy up there had a plan for me and for him. But I continued CPR. I could feel her ribs breaking in my hands. I was doing mouth to mouth. I'm at this point, I'm trying to be a medic, but I can't because I don't have any equipment. I don't have a monitor to be able to defibrillate or be able to determine her heart rhythm. I don't have IV access or medications to be able to help with her heart rate and getting it started again. I don't have airway equipment to breathe for her. I can't intubate. I can't do anything but compressions at this point. Which just, oh God, it was so fucking stressful. I feel like I'm back in that moment right now, and it's really hard. But we got to the hospital, and of course my husband just pulls up to the front, and I jump out with her because she's still in my hands, and jump out and run inside. My husband gets at my other daughter because we remembered the time that we had her. God, that sounds so horrible that we forgot her, but get her inside. And about the time that they're once they have her completely on the monitor, you know, I'm still doing compressions at this time. I haven't switched. No one's touching my baby. I mean, they are, but I'm doing the compressions because I need to do something, because if I don't do something, I'm going to lose it. And they put her on the monitor, and we do a rhythm check, and it's still a flat line, but then her heart starts. Her heart just started beating again, and she just woke up. I mean, like, woke up, was awake, eyes open. She's tracking, of course she's screaming, but her scream was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. It was so beautiful. I know people are gonna think I'm crazy for that, but to think she's dead and then to hear her again was just unreal. It really wasn't real for me. So there's no doubt in my mind that God didn't play a massive role in the way that things played out that day. But I also have this just inkling, this feeling that my angel babies met my daughter Laney at the Golden Gates and told her to turn her ass back around because it was not her time and she needed to come back home to me. I know I sound crazy, but there's a lot more to that story. Now, the hospital that we went to does not take my insurance, which means everything would be out of pocket and very expensive for us. And this doctor knew that, and he knew I was a paramedic, and he knew that she was stable. And he said, there's another hospital 2 blocks down. If you want to leave AMA, I completely understand, and you won't be charged anything. This man did something that he could get in so much trouble for, because he knew what financial distress that would have put us in on top of all this. And he knew that she was going to be flown to another hospital, and trying to pay for a life-flighted patient is ridiculously expensive. Like, oh my God, it's like baseline like $40,000-$50,000, but just for them to lift up off the ground, it's crazy expensive. And the fact that he did that for us was just so beautiful. But we jumped in the front seat and hauled us 2 blocks down the road. He was already on the phone with them. They knew we were coming. They were ready for us. And we handed them over to her, and she had several more episodes You're okay, baby. What? You're okay. Several more episodes there while they were trying to get her all hooked up and stable, basically. You know, they were running labs, they were checking her blood sugar, they were checking her temperature, trying to find out why the hell this happened. In the process, she stops breathing again. Her heart never stops, but she stops breathing. So they've got her on CPAP, which is basically pressurized oxygen forcing air into her lungs to basically remind her to breathe at this point. Sorry, cleaning up kid stuff. And yeah, cheese, you ate all of it. Good job. Okay. And they, you know, of course they tell us, like, we're gonna need to fly her to Texas Children's, back to the same hospital that we were in earlier with her. I agree, like, let's do it. Let's get her out of here. By the way, guys, I work for this hospital that we're at right now as a paramedic, PRN, and I know everyone. Little dark humor to lighten the situation. I don't have a damn shirt on. I had just fed her and was still in a maternity breastfeeding bra and nothing else. I am 10 days postpartum with my big old postpartum belly sticking out, and I am embarrassed as all get out. Not that it really mattered. It didn't matter because my baby was the only thing that really mattered. But to lighten the load, I have to use a little dark humor and laugh about something, or I would never be okay from this. Anyways, they get her stabilized, and then they come back and they tell me they say she's hypothermic, which is crazy because there's no reason. She's bundled up in warm clothes, okay? Of course, the blanket came off while we were doing CPR and all that kind of stuff, but there was no reason she should have been hypothermic for any reason at all. Helicopter shows up, and they load us up. Me and my daughter. My husband cannot go with us. There's not enough room in this tiny little helicopter, and off we go. Okay, so remember earlier when I talked about the kangaroo crew and how it didn't matter then, but it'll matter later. So we had to wait 2 hours for the kangaroo crew to get to us because our services did not have the right equipment or the capability to transport my daughter the way that she needed to be transported with the right equipment. But after she went into cardiac arrest, they did not wait for the kangaroo crew. They knew she needed to get there immediately, and once they actually called AirMed 12 PHI, was where we're at right now. Once I actually called them, they were landing at the helipad within, I think it was like 7 minutes of being called, which is actually incredible because it takes forever to get off the ground in the first place. I think they might have actually already been in the air returning from getting fuel, which is just absolutely insane. Everything just happened so fast. It felt like it was hours for everything, but it was really just like seconds. It was crazy.